when I realized that I was having these fears, it made me question whether or not I felt safe to show up as myself. That was the twist from fear to faith that actually made me realize I need to be evaluating connections to make sure that they're actually fulfilling me more. We are not going to fear change anymore. We're going to embrace it because ultimately we're all asking for it in some capacity anyway. Hey everyone, welcome back to Just Like Magic with Julia. It has been a minute, but we are back with today's video about what I am leaving in 2025 so that 2026 can find me. Because I'm not playing games in 2026 and I have a feeling neither are you. If you want to learn from my mistakes and talk about some things that you may need to leave in 2025 as well, stick around, hit that subscribe button because this video is definitely for you. So as the year comes to an end, I feel like a lot of people are down because, it's cold outside. I live in New York. It is gloomy as hell. It's dark outside by 4 p.m. No one wants to do anything. We're all trapped inside the house. The holidays are here. I spent all my money on Black Friday and the sales. So all you really have to do is reflect, sit around, and think about what's gone right, what's gone wrong. And depending on your perspective, that can be kind of depressing and put you in a little bit of a funk. Now, as I've spoken about previously on this channel, 2025 was a transformation year. The numerology leads to a 9-year, and 9 is the number of transformation. Oh, and on top of it, it's the year of the snake. So literally this whole year, I just felt like I was going through transformations and rebirths and transformations and rebirths. That was my whole 2025. And while this year was very, very draining and just all over the place energetically because of the constant transformation and rebirth aspects that it had to it, it also was one of the most telling years because I hate to say it, but I did learn a lot. And while I was really in that end of the year reflection mode, I started paying attention to some of the things that I did do and that I did accomplish and that I did learn. I feel like we need to highlight that within all of us because even if you just survived the year, even if that was like your main accomplishment, that's still an accomplishment worth celebrating. And I'm sure you had moments where you didn't know if you were going to be able to even do that. So without further ado, these are the 4 things that I will be leaving in 2025 so that I can walk into 2026 a more clear, lighter, and more loving version of myself. Number 1, my anxious attachment style. For me personally this year, at the beginning of the year, I found myself in a blossoming connection. And very, very soon into this connection, I found myself really anxious. And when I sat with myself and did the inner work, I realized that a lot of that anxiety was not coming from the connection that I was presently experiencing, but from past fears, past experiences, everything rooted in something that has already taken place, not something that was rooted in the present. And so I read this beautiful book called Attached, which basically explores all of the different attachment styles. And we all have an attachment style. There is no such thing as a good or bad attachment style. It really is just based off of how our needs were met as children. You can actually change your attachment style, but your current attachment style does explain how you experience connection. And for me, I discovered that I had an anxious attachment style. And one thing that I specifically learned was that my anxious attachment style really does stem from perceived rejection. That was something that was so key for me to learn this year. A lot of my anxiety came from past relationships, past experiences, and thoughts and feelings that festered up within me and never really went away. The inner work that I did uncovered that a lot of how I experience current connections comes from a fear that I'm going to be rejected in them. It helped me understand that when I have this fear of rejection, I act in ways that are not authentic to me. Because deep down inside somewhere, I'm fearing that if I don't fill and take up space, if I don't meet this person's expectations of me, then I'm going to be rejected. And who I am is not enough to keep the connection going. Those were all things that are so deep that I didn't even know were rooted within me prior to even exploring this. I don't know if I would say that I completely have healed my attachment style, but I definitely feel like I'm more aware of these tendencies. And I feel like anyone who has an anxious attachment style, or anyone feels like they're going to show up in a connection and not be enough for the other person, feels like maybe they're not enough for themselves. And so when I had that epiphany, I really became aware of this pattern. And when I realized that I was having these fears, it made me question whether or not I felt safe to show up as myself. If I felt safe that other people would just naturally like me for me. And because I had this fear of rejection that was holding me back a lot in connections, because I felt like I had to fill up the space all the time or the person wouldn't like me, I was showing up in an inauthentic way. I was acting out of fear. And when you act out of fear, you naturally self-sabotage. Because I was acting in an inauthentic way, I was acting completely different than how I naturally and initially presented to be. And that was what actually made the connection feel more inauthentic to both of us. So yeah, when I acted out of fear, it kind of did self-sabotage and it resulted in an inauthentic connection. Who wants to be in an inauthentic connection? Those are not really the best. I know I don't. Those aren't really of substance. Those aren't natural. They don't feel good. You can sense when energy is off. You can sense when someone's trying to try too hard or try too little. When energy isn't aligning, you know it one way or another. And that was something that I put the puzzle pieces together and really realized this year, that if I want something to work, I have to show up present in it and aware of my past tendencies that do root in anxious attachment style. For me, that looked like having to understand that I have to be enough for me. Before any connection, friendship, family, romance, I have to be enough for me. I have to be present enough to get my needs met every single day. I have to be the one chasing my dreams. I have to be the one showing myself love to even be able to contribute to another connection. Because when I know that I matter, I'm not trying to fill a space. I'm not even focused on trying to be enough for someone else or trying to make sure that they like me and don't reject me, because I'm not rejecting me. I'm respecting myself enough to understand that if something's for me, if someone is for me, then who I am is going to be enough. As a matter of fact, that was the twist from fear to faith that actually made me realize I need to be evaluating connections to make sure that they're actually fulfilling me more. I'm so focused on if I'm giving to that person that I need to be understanding if that person is actually aligns with a connection that I want in my life. Do they respect my boundaries? Do I feel like they're adding something substantial to my life? Like, great conversation. Can we do things together? So it really did lead to me understanding what building a healthy connection looked like once I realized that that was my attachment style and I had to do some work around that. The second thing that I will be leaving in 2025 is blaming myself to feel in control. Now, I know this sounds crazy and twisted, but let me explain myself a little bit. At the end of last year, I had gotten promoted at my 9-to-5 job. And this was a promotion that was an honor because it was honestly one of the highest positions that I myself could get in my industry. Entering 2025, January, February, March of this year, it was amazing. I had such a great time at my job. I loved my job. I loved my coworkers. I was, just having a really great experience there. And boom, April, I come back and it was just a disaster. The company had taken a turn. People were just quitting left and right. And I found myself in a very, very toxic work environment. The problem was, instead of accepting the conditions for what they were, I was trying to find areas within myself that I could nitpick and blame for now the negative outcome I was having at my job. It wasn't the circumstances that I was blaming. I was blaming myself because I felt like if I could just do more, if I could just come to work and tone out the very negative environment, the very negative people, the high demands, the stress, if I could just find a way to turn off the part of me that was being stressed, was being impacted, was being affected, and be Superwoman, I would be fine. I could not accept for the longest that this place that I had finally come to love working at was changing at a very, very fast rate into a very negative, toxic environment. And the proof was in the pudding. Literally, when I tell you, people were quitting left and right every week, resignations. It was just becoming a very toxic place to spend your time at. And instead of just accepting that, I was blaming myself because I didn't want to let go. I didn't want to accept it because I knew if I accepted it, I would have to move on. I would have to release control. And those things, I was being really resistant to. And so when I was blaming myself, when I was trying to find things that I could pick on, when I was thinking to myself that these things shouldn't affect me, that was me blaming me for something that was very much real and out of my control so that I could try to regain control of the situation. Instead of accepting, I was resisting. And funny enough, I learned this year that no matter how much you resist, at some point, when you gotta let go, you gotta let go. Months later, I let go. I actually started, that's crazy. As soon as I said I let go, the lights went off. And I guess my battery died right at the second. So we're gonna have to do what we do with this lighting right now. That's actually really crazy that the lighting just went out when I said, when I let go, I let go. Well, yes, when you have to let go, you have to let go. Because months later, I let go. I let go crying. I let go tired. I let go scared. I let go stressed. And guess what? I am now the happiest version of myself. I'm so much more at peace with my work life. I started my own business. I have more time to make videos for YouTube. Everything feels more aligned, more at peace. You are not meant to live your life stressed out. Side note, whether it's at work, whether it's with a person, you are not meant to live your life stressed. Life is too short. I just want to say that. When things are not going right, things are not going right. And you can try to a certain degree to do your part and to fix them. But when it's very obvious that it is no longer your fault and in your control, you have to know when to walk away, when to accept that the changes have occurred, and when to realign with better for yourself. You are not to blame when things out of your control are going wrong. So the third thing that I will be leaving in 2025 kind of ties into number 2, but it is spaces and people I've outgrown but keep around or kept around for convenience. We all know when something is no longer challenging us or aligning with our higher self. This could be, like I said, a job, people, places, etc. And the perfect example was that position that I was talking to you about that I had. It was great for a time and then I outgrew it and it was very clear that I was being realigned. But for me, the comfort and the familiarity that that position, that particular job gave me was far more important than being challenged at this point in time. And for me, I latched onto that because I didn't want to challenge myself. I didn't want to deal with new people, new places that felt unfamiliar. First and foremost, this isn't even something that's unique to me. Your brain actually is programmed to not like the unfamiliar. It actually pushes it away at every chance that it gets. So naturally, we don't like unfamiliar. We don't like change. It's interesting because all I seek in life, all I pray for at night is positive change. Our goals, our dreams, our prayers surrounded by blessings that will change my life, will change my family's life for the better, will change the world for the better in a positive way, but still in a new way that is unfamiliar to me right now. And so when you're in it though, when you're in the journey, when you're in the plan, you're not seeing the different roadmaps and the different reroutes that a higher power, the Most High, has for you to get to the blessings that you're asking for. You're just asking for them, and you have your head set on the way that you would like it to happen. Just like I said, when I left that position, I am now 10 times more happier than I was when I was working it. But at that point, I was latching on to that position because I wanted comfort, I wanted the familiar, because it felt good. But more than it feeling good was this deep-rooted seed of the fear of change. And I think for me at that point in time, I was fearing change because I had finally felt like I had reached a point where I knew what was going to be predictable, and I liked it. Because when you can predict something, there's very minimal uncertainty. And when uncertainty is absent, so is anxiety. But I had to ask myself, do I want to remain small? Do I want to remain stuck just because I want to predict my day-to-day? Is this going to be something that I'm going to regret at some point in my life? Because ultimately, that would mean me being the one to keep me stuck. I would be the one keeping myself small, because I knew damn well at that point, even though that position was great for the time, it wasn't where I saw myself staying. That would have been me putting a cap on myself and my growth. Sometimes we have to understand that when we keep certain spaces and people around, even though we know we've outgrown them, we are the ones that are keeping ourselves small. We are the ones that are keeping ourselves stuck. Because when you know you've outgrown something and you keep it around just because you fear change and you fear newness, you're actually putting a cap on how much you want to grow. You're putting a cap on the blessings that you're allowing to flow into your life. And that's not benefiting you. It's not benefiting the space. It's not benefiting the people, because ultimately you're going to show up in a way that's not going to be suitable for that environment anymore. You may outgrow it and be too big for it. And guess what? No one likes to be around someone who's too big for their environment, because that breeds jealousy, that breeds envy, that breeds unhappiness. And guess what? You're going to feel that. Even if you don't feel it, if you don't feel that energy, you're going to feel too big for your own environment. As I was growing up, I always heard you never want to be the smartest in the room. You always want to have people that you keep around you, that inspire you to continuously aid to your growth. And if you're surrounding yourself with people who you know are not going to challenge you in any certain way because you are the person that is always inspiring, you're not going to have anyone to aid your growth, to help you. Same thing with the job, same thing with the passion, same thing with the space. We are not going to fear change anymore. We're going to embrace it, because ultimately we're all asking for it in some capacity anyway. And we're going to look for people, for places, for experiences, opportunities that challenge us in exciting ways. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying cut off your day one besties because they don't inspire you in the way that you need to be. Of course not. But you know when it applies to you. Use your discernment. And finally, the last thing that I will be leaving in 2025 is a blocked mental and emotional space. Now, I was having a whole conversation with one of my clients a few weeks ago about hard work and productivity. People are now hiding behind productivity to hide behind their emotions, their mental wellness, their state of being, just so that they can feel like they're doing something. Truth be told, it's okay to not feel productive every second of every day. We need to learn how to shift from being productive to being present. Because when your focus is just work, 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 go, 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 be productive, you're going to burn yourself out. I burned myself out. And of course, we all know burnout leads to stress. They go hand in hand, right? The thing is, when you're stressed, when you're burnt out, you can't receive. You're blocked. that is a form of being blocked, because that means that you are so busy dedicating your time and your energy to being productive that you're not meeting your own needs. You're not taking into account what's actually happening with your minds, with your emotions, with your spirit, with your soul. So you may physically be getting things done, but you're blocked elsewhere, and that will catch up to you sooner than later. I think for me, the most dangerous thing about being stressed is that stress creeps up on you. It's something that I feel like we all understand is dangerous for us, but stress really can creep up on you and prolong certain things that you know you're capable of doing, but because you're exhausted, because mentally you feel this drained energy, you ultimately hold yourself back. A lot of people go around saying, oh, I don't have the time. I don't have the time to prioritize myself. I don't have the time to be present. I don't have the time to figure out what's wrong. You know, I don't want to go to therapy. I don't want to take this yoga class. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to journal. And it's like, okay, well, then you're going to be living in a constant state of stress. You have to come first. When you figure out that you are the center of everything that you produce, you will understand that taking care of yourself ultimately means taking top level care of everything that you touch around you. When you make the time to check in with yourself emotionally, spiritually, mentally, when you take count of what's happening in your life, in your emotional life, and you dedicate time to really unpacking, processing, and figuring things out, that brings so much clarity. And with clarity, you are able to show up in moments present. It's almost like you're slowing life down with your mind when you're able to take count and recenter. But when you're go, 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 stress, 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 it shows up in your external life after some time. And that breeds in anxiety, that breeds in rumination, that breeds in depression sometimes. And sooner than later, if not checked, it will create a monster out of yourself. You don't want to be the version of yourself that is chasing dopamine because you are mentally and emotionally blocked. The easiest thing to do when your dopamine spikes, when you're stressed out, to get that little hit of feeling good, go on Uber Eats. Order some food that looks really good, but it's going to go against your goal that you had at the beginning of the year of watching what you consume. The easiest thing to do, go online shopping. You need a cute little top that's going to make you feel really good. Oh, but that's going to start piling up those purchases and it's going to go against your financial goals. The TV shows that we watch, the music that we listen to feel like we're escaping, just to get that dopamine spike, to feel something, to feel good amidst all the stress and chaos that's going on in our mind, all because we're blocked, creates more chaos. And this all can be managed if you make the time for yourself. And if you feel like you can't do this alone, there are so many different things that you can do and invest your time in that can help you prioritize time for your mental and emotional wellness. Whether it's buying one of those guided journals, I think the gratitude journal is like a popular one. Whether it's finding a YouTube channel that you really like, whether it's finding a therapist or taking a class, anything. But you need to make sure that you are having some sort of time every single day with yourself, that you're taking time to prioritize you and your feelings and your mind. We want you going into this new year clear. And in order to do that, it all starts up here. Now, I know I was lecturing you a little bit too much, and I know this video is about what I'm leaving behind, but girl, let me tell you, they got me on Black Friday. Like, I was already in the midst of a little seasonal depression with the transition of weather and the time. And Black Friday, I was really in need of that dopamine spike just because I was not taking account into what was happening in my mind. I felt like I needed to purge some things, and instead of actually doing so, I was buying things to kind of fill that void, and it wasn't being filled anyway. Dopamine spikes feel good in the moment, but they do end up going against your goal in some capacity elsewhere. So now you know these are the 4 things that I will be leaving behind in 2025 so that I can walk into 2026 a much more confident, loving, caring, and self-aware version of myself. If you agree with any of these points, or if you have your own points that you realize you're going to be leaving in 2025, let me know in the comments. I really want to hear. And as always, I hope that 2026 brings you all that you are praying for and more, and that you will receive it all just like magic. Bye.